Releasing into early access on February 27th, the straightforward and very self-explanatory Builders of Greece is a, you guessed it, city builder management simulator set in Greece circa the golden age of Hellenic city-states. And rest assured, all of the genre's usual suspects are on display here. You'll start out on an isolated Mediterranean island with a pocket full of drachmas, and after plopping down in an agora, begin expanding in every direction with reckless abandon. In order to sustain your fledgling polis, however, you'll need to gather dozens of resources scattered about the land, from basic wood and stone, to copper and tin you'll smelt into bronze, all the way up to marble for statues and luxury goods like olive oil and wine that you'll use to appease your three distinct populations of workers, each of which are used for their own set of increasingly complex tasks. As just about everything in BOG is interrelated, under or overestimating the needs of your workers may lead to system-wide supply chain breakdowns that can be pretty tricky to unfuck. Luckily, the game lets you buy what you need and sell what you don't through the harbor, which can be upgraded after making your way through the game's painstakingly slow research tree. Really, I had this puppy set to 3x speed most of my playthrough, and research still crawled along no matter how many iterations of the library I built, each of which increases your tech point multiplier but won't let you research more than one thing at a time? At least, I think that's how this all works. Between the barebones tutorial and unhelpful UI, BOG leaves most of the learning up to you for better and worse. Though I'm afraid to say, at least at this stage of early access, it's mostly worse. This ominous segue leads me to the review's central conclusion. Builders of Greece is a vaguely promising, albeit currently raw, uncut, and mostly unpolished hunk of marble. The game is littered with playability concerns, from broken menus and saved games that refuse to load, to poorly explained central mechanics that combine with an unhelpful user interface to all but guarantee your first few attempts will end in confused, frustrated disaster. And while what's here in terms of economy and population management mechanics is serviceable and even at times enjoyable, BOG just doesn't really do anything to stand out from the crowd, especially when it comes to combat. In my first 15 hours with the game, I had one scripted combat encounter that involved a ship dumping a trash mob onto my shores that I cleaned up within seconds. Thus, without a menu option to increase the rate of raids or overall difficulty, BOG effectively plays like a non-combat simulator. Now, this would be perfectly fine if BOG featured a long list of maps and maybe even some pre-made missions or scenarios to play and solve. But it looks like at this stage what we're getting is a glorified tutorial, a handful of infrequent pop-up window decisions to make about your polis, and a sandbox mode. That's identical to the tutorial, only this robotic Socrates-looking motherfucker won't talk as much.
Many of our citizens, we have just completed the harbor project.
Couple this with the game's one playable map and lack of rival city-states, and your world ends up feeling incredibly tiny and uninteresting. This is usually around when I try to, out of pity, salvage a rough game's reputation by praising some of its stylistic elements. Unfortunately, BOG's graphics engine is pretty dated, with some ugly textures, clunky animations, and no weather or day-night cycle. The music, meanwhile, is pleasant if repetitive, but at one point songs overlap for me, creating a cacophony of lutes and lyres that I just had to outright mute. And while we're talking fiddling with the menus, goodness does this game load with some whack default sound settings. I had to do a lot of toggling to get BOG to make any auditory sense, but even then the constant chirping birdsong background noise meant I had to bring this slider all the way down, meaning my workers had to toil away in complete silence. In conclusion, Builders of Greece is nowhere near ready for even early access, as evidenced by its close to all-time low aggregate megascore of 2.3 out of 5. Now, this isn't to say that BOG can't become something worth playing by full release, but it's going to take a fittingly Herculean effort to get there. Luckily, the devs have some great features planned, so I'll be keeping an eye on BOG as the year progresses. Until then, this is Scope, and thanks for watching.